This is the most humane way to kill a fish. Stabbing it in the brain and cutting it open to bleed it out. I know it looks gruesome, but trust me, it's better than the alternative. For the fish and for you. Most fish are killed the same way. Scooped out of the water, thrown in a bucket of ice, and left to suffocate to death. Their brains are really different from ours, which makes it hard to figure out if and how they feel pain. Studies are conclusive on one thing, though. Fish do feel stress and try to fight or flee stressful situations. It can take anywhere from 5 minutes to a few hours of struggling in the open air before a fish finally dies. And while they're trying to escape, their bloodstreams fill with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Plus, all that movement causes lactic acid to flood their muscles, the same chemicals humans produce when we exercise.
When a fish is struggling to death, it's actually exercising. When it's suffocating, it's exercising.
This is Andrew Choi, an attorney and former commercial fisherman whose real passion is teaching people how to properly kill fish.
That lactic acid buildup in the muscle tissue actually has real consequences at a cellular level.
These chemicals speed up the breakdown of muscle and fat, which causes the fish to lose its inherent rich flavor and adopt a bitter, mushy taste. They make fish rot quickly and develop that unpleasant fishy smell. Since most fish are killed this way, it's probably all you've ever tasted. But there's a better way. Ikejime is a traditional Japanese method for killing fish. It's a 4-step process, and according to Andrew, it basically translates to brain spike. He'll show you why with this live Maryland striped bass from the Chesapeake Bay.
So the first step is to actually make sure that this fish doesn't experience any stress. We're going to kill this fish by placing a spike into its brain. You know that you've actually hit its brain when that fish seizes like this. Its dorsal and the rest of its fins flare and its mouth will flare.
Once it's spiked, the fish is brain dead, meaning it can't experience any more stress. But its heart is still beating from cellular energy reserves.
Because its heart is still bleeding, we're going to use the residual blood pressure to pump out and bleed the fish. This is also known as exsanguination. So the process of exsanguinating a fish is 3 cuts. The first cut is at the gill arches on both sides. And then the third cut is at the artery in the tail.
Removing the blood means the fish rots slower. At this point, even though the fish is brain dead, the nervous system can still cause involuntary muscle movement, which adds to that unsavory lactic acid buildup. This next step shuts that down.
One of the more gruesome parts of ikejime is the spinal cord destruction, and the necessity of it sort of varies by species, but essentially what the objective is to cease any further signaling between the central nervous system and the muscle tissue, and that takes place in the spinal cord. One of the ways that that is achievable is by sending a metal pith through the spinal cord of the fish.
Last but not least, the fish goes into a bath of ice water.
We use a 1-to-1 ice to water ratio to create a slurry and then submerge the fish fully in the slurry.
In there, the muscles cool down completely and the fish finishes bleeding out. When you take a look inside a fish, you can really see the difference that ikejime makes. Both of these fish were caught earlier this day. One was killed using the standard method, suffocation, and the other was killed using the ikejime method. When Andrew opened them up, they looked relatively the same, but you can see that the suffocated one is filled with a lot of blood, the stuff that causes quick decomposition. We did a taste test, and
they honestly taste pretty similar. It tastes fresh. There's not like an overwhelming flavor to it.
It's a few days later when things really start to change. FDA guidelines recommend cooking refrigerated fish within 2 days. But since ikejime slows rotting immensely, the fish is good for much longer, which means it's able to develop more complex flavors, similar to the way red meat tastes better when it's aged. This fish was purchased whole from the grocery store, killed using the standard suffocation method. It's a couple of days old. And this one was killed using the ikejime method. It's been sitting in the fridge at 33 degrees for 2 whole weeks. When we opened both of them up, the suffocated one had a distinct fishy aroma.
Wow, yeah, I can really smell it now. It smells so metally and just gross. Oh my God.
Its insides had blood running through them and were starting to break apart, providing more space for bacteria to grow. The aged ikejime fish, on the other hand, had barely any scent. They tasted different too.
So this is the one I'm nervous about. This is the one from the store that's a couple days old. Oh my God. It's not great, I'll be honest with you. It's a little sour. Okay, so this is supposed to be the primo fish, the one that has been aging for 2 weeks after being killed with the ikejime method. You can tell underneath it, there's just like this hint of complexity.
And once we added a bit of salt to bring that flavor out,
oh my God, that is so good. I don't even know what it tastes like, but it's delicious.
so it tastes much better and lasts much longer. Why aren't more fish killed using the ikejime method then? The answer is simple: cost. It's almost impossible to scale ikejime on commercial ship decks and fish farms, where it's just cheaper and easier to default to suffocation. For now, there is one particular market for fish killed using the ikejime method: high-end restaurants, especially ones serving sushi, like La Marine in France or Providence in LA. These restaurants pay a lot of money for ikejime fish from Japan, its primary exporter. But elsewhere in the world, fishers are sitting on an untapped market. If they use the ikejime method, they could sell their fish for a lot more money.
Anyone, if given the opportunity to look at two fillets side by side or two fish side by side, will immediately notice these distinctions. It's just that that opportunity doesn't really come around very often. I like to think that ikejime is actually about intellectual integrity. It's the integrity of the fish, it's the integrity of sort of what we're really doing here, which is ultimately creating something to eat.
Making a smarter choice in the food system can help us feel good about our decisions, and making the smarter choice for mobile can too. Ting is a cellular service provider that only charges you for the data you actually use, not a flat monthly bill. These days, most people are using Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and iMessage to send the majority of their texts, and yet still pay for expensive unlimited talk and text packages. On top of that, if you're the type of person who's almost always connected to Wi-Fi, which doesn't count towards data usage, Ting can give you serious savings. Like, your phone bill could be as low as $23 a month serious. And if you use less data, you pay less. Ting offers nationwide LTE coverage across 2 major networks. So the phone you already own probably already works with Ting. All you need is a SIM card. Make the smarter choice for mobile and get $25 off your monthly bill at box.ting.com. Ting doesn't directly impact our editorial, but their support makes videos like these possible, so go check them out.